My name is Chris, and I run Arete Wood and Concrete. So this is going to be my first go at content production outside of just Instagram pictures. In this video, I'll be making 10 river tables in about 7 days. It's a really fast turnaround for something like this, but I knew the clients, and it's a winery here locally, and I wanted to help them out. So after unloading all the wood, I had my little boy who loves to help out pressure wash the back of my truck. So to get started on these slabs, they were all rough length, pretty twisted and warped, and so I just trimmed them all to a rough length of what we needed, and then split them in half so that I could have one flat side to put against the form, but also a live edge facing in for the river. Here's just a fancy shot of me trimming them down to length using my track saw. I have a Festool track saw. I've heard that Makita, I really want to try out some Makitas. They look really nice, and I've heard a lot of good things about them. I don't know much about the DeWalt's. So here I am in another important phase of this table building. I am pulling off the sapwood. These were air-dried slabs for about 6 years, and so there was a lot of rotten sapwood, and there was bugs in them. So if you don't pull that off, the bugs come out during the epoxy pour or afterwards, and the epoxy doesn't have something very strong to bond to, so the tables can just break. So after scraping off all the sapwood, I needed to have a flat side to stick down in the form, and with these being all warped, I had to make a planer sled to use, and this is that. It's about an inch and an eighth inch thick particle board. Not necessary, but it's what I had on hand. And then I used the shims to level it up so that it doesn't wiggle as I put it through the planer. So there was about 20 slabs plus a couple extra just in case, which I ended up needing. And it took about 3 to 5 passes on each slab to get a flat side. So this was a bit of a workout. It took me a few hours to get through all of these. It's not a fast process. Luckily, I was wearing my sponsored shop shoes, Crocs. I'm just kidding, I'm not sponsored. But I am wearing Crocs. They're really nice if you're going to be standing on concrete all day. So here I am trimming all the slabs to length. I told you I cut them to a rough length at the start of it, and now I'm using my sliding table to cut them all to a consistent length for easy form building in the future. You don't need to use a sliding table if you have a square and a circular saw. You can do the same exact thing. I found this sliding table by chance when I was buying this table saw off of Craigslist. I found it on Craigslist, went up to the shop to purchase it, and the shop next door actually had the sliding table in their shop and they were trying to get rid of it. So score one for me and score one for Craigslist. As you can see, this is a bit of a process. 20 slabs cut to rough length. Just takes a little bit of time, and I had to make sure to square up one side on each slab before doing that. So it's a process. To be honest, I saved all these offcuts instead of just cleaning them up as I went for this shot, since I have a new tripod and wanted to test it out. So my buddy Cody came over to help me sand off all these edges. I used the draw knife to pull all the sapwood off, and it leaves some sharp lines. So since this is clear epoxy, we wanted to sand all of that back as to make sure that there's nothing showing in the final product. It is a lot of sanding, and so it was nice to have someone there to help me. That stand that Cody is using is called a super clamp, I believe. I bought it on Black Friday last year at Home Depot, and it has been really handy. It took me a little bit to figure out how to use it in the flow of my shop, but for holding small parts or for holding little pieces like this standing upright, it is very, very nice. The last table I built the entire base, and instead of using a steel base or something like that, and had to sand all the parts, and I used this clamp, and it saved me a lot of hours. As you can see, I go in and out of the shot a lot, and that's to test fit the slabs to make sure they fit in their pre-built forms. And here I'm filing down one to make sure it fits, as that little edge right there was kind of butting up against the other slab. So during the epoxy pour, the client actually came down to help put her stones that she's been saving for years into these tables. Looking back, we definitely should have let the epoxy dry longer, but we were all on a pretty rushed timeline, so we didn't. And it actually added about 5 hours worth of work. So lesson learned. Here I'm using an angle grinder and a diamond steel cutting blade in order to grind back the rocks and get a flat side. Without a flat side, I couldn't put it through the planer, and with the rocks showing, I still couldn't put it through the planer. So here was the solution. Once we had a flat side, I did a final trim to length on each of the tables and then started planing them down. Unfortunately, on the only glue up that we had of all these tables, the planer exposed the dominoes. So the fix was to make a patch. These holes were too big for bow ties, so I took a patch and cut it and then actually used super glue to lay it in there. And super glue dries really hard, dries clear, and is polishable. It worked awesome. Another unfortunate circumstance was that the table bases that I ordered, the columns never showed up. And so we had to think quickly and ended up making 20 little farm style bases to go on these tables for the soft opening. Here I am cutting down those things. It was 9 pieces per base, so it was a lot of cuts. And then to assemble them, I once again used that jaw clamp to just give a quick sand, and then I had set up a jig on my table to just lay them out and pin nail them together. And then after they were all pin nailed, we screwed it together. Here we are with about 17 minutes left until the soft opening. It's cutting it close, but that's to be expected with a 7-day turnaround. You can see the farm style bases. They're not my favorite, but they were subtle enough to not get noticed and did their job of holding the table up while the other bases were in process of being delivered. Each river has a variety of stones in it, but some of the ones that I remember are amethyst and crystal, iron pyrite, and then there's an assortment of arrowheads that were stuck in there. And one of the rocks was called a desert rose. It seemed like a pretty soft stone, but it was shaped like a flower, so it's cool. It was very neat to see this client's vision for all these rocks she's been saving over the years come to life in these tables. And all the tables, along with the bar, were finished in conversion varnish. It's a spray-on film finish that's really durable, really chemical resistant. While it's being sprayed until it dries for a few days, it is pretty stinky and definitely requires a mask while you're spraying it, along with a lot of ventilation. But once it's dried and cured, it is one of the best finishes on the market. Here's that bar that I was talking about, and it's cut out of the same tree. They're consecutively cut slabs, and we did a butt joint where the grains kind of flow off of one another at the bottom, and then added a piece to the back to make it the depth that we needed. And just a few more beauty shots of the tables and the bar, showing them in their place and from some different angles. My wife and kid and I were able to go to the soft opening and enjoy some of their pizza and obviously wine. It was a lot of fun. At the start of the video, I did forget that my door does not stop opening on its own, and so I had to run over and get it stopped. And just to finish it off and close it out, it's a video of my kid. He took a screwdriver from my shop and proceeded to try to fix a non-broken chair at our house. I do like his work ethic. So thanks everyone for watching. I know epoxy tables aren't everyone's cup of tea, but that's what I do. I build what people want, and my clients wanted some epoxy river tables, and I think it turned out to be a very cool project. If you have any thoughts or questions, please leave them in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.